my beautiful people. Sorry for disappearing for the past few weeks. I had a few things to take care of and did a bit of R&R last week and then saw a certain somebody live. Nonetheless, she is back and she wants to make something thought-provoking today. I wanted to start a series that I had plans to do with a friend, but now that things have fallen through, I thought I could bring it to this channel. The series is called Is K-pop Really That Deep?, in which, ironically, explores more of the deeper parts of the K-pop fandom culture from a psychological and meta standpoint. The first topic I wanted to dive into this week is escapism and parasocial relationships, something that we're all very guilty of doing. According to the Oxford Dictionary, escapism is a term that is used in which a person has the tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasant realities, specifically by seeking entertainment or engaging in fantasy. People can escape through traveling, do recreational medicines, drinking liquor, and even participating in fandom activities. I know the argument against this term for fandom is that, it isn't as bad as other vices listed where you can die from it, so what is the harm? I think that's one of the issues, actually. It's the fact that we see it as so innocuous and the lesser of two evils that we condone some of the events that are happening around us. Since I'm an army, I will address the biggest elephant in the room that got me inspired to do this video. Your heart is all I own. Now, I'm not going to sit here and defend the actions of this photographer who decided to film them randomly, or fight to the death to say that this is indeed V from BTS and Jennie from Blackpink, but the response that came out from this particular video has been relatively disgusting and has been hiding under the guise of privacy and protecting the idols involved. On one hand, I've seen people make the wildest conspiracy theories as to why this video got leaked, from harassing cosplayers, other idols, and putting Taehyung in a very infantilizing point of view in which he's victimized to do this PR stunt. On the other side, I've seen a lot of people come up to Jennie as a more devilish siren of sorts, luring people like Taehyung into her feminist circle and contaminating him as a person. Like, I've seen a lot of really hot takes that are extremely sexist, calling her like she's supposed to be a beacon of feminism while she's promoting the idol, something that she really didn't have any control of when she first got accepted into the role of being a part of the idol and things like that. Even though literally last year I saw a lot of people talk about Euphoria, who's also created by the same person who created the idol, so make it make sense, you guys. Now, for those who are not in either fandom, these things must sound absolutely bonkers, but it also presents an issue here. Why are we making these elaborate stories up? Why are we so convinced that either party is super evil and needs to be destroyed? It's because the perception of these two idols that we have has been shattered, and it leaves us to realize that we're all fighting for absolutely no reason at all. As each fandom is fighting each other, it turns out that the two most popular members of the biggest groups in the entire world could potentially be dating each other, and that breaks the fantasy that we've made in our heads that these groups hate each other. We take this into the account with the whole concept of boyfriend and girlfriend idols, something that has been persistent in K-pop since the beginning of time. I'm not going to sit here and say this is an exclusively K-pop thing, of course, as is present in J-pop, American teen pop culture back in the 90s and early 2000s, and the UK boy groups and girl groups in the 2010s. This was created to make a profit off of suspecting teenage girls and boys. However, it has definitely escalated to older fans, such as uncle fans and Nuna fans, who are also just as problematic in the way how they present themselves. In the same way, sports fans give a lot of love to their fans to get them to show up to every single game, or at the very best, buy season tickets. The relationship created by fans and these celebrities are used to get them to see them at concerts and watch whatever they're on, no matter how bad it is. As our respective girl and boy groups make songs about love and loss and everything in between, there's a certain level of attachment that we get from standing these groups to the point where we half jokingly call it a parasocial relationship. And I say this with a grain of salt in terms of half jokingly because, well, many of us at some point in our fandom have taken it too far at times. According to the Oxford Dictionary, a parasocial relationship is defined as a kind of psychological relationship experienced by members of an audience in their mediated encounters with the certain performers in the mass media. In layman's terms, this means that the person imagines the relationship they have with a particular fictional character or celebrity that they don't know personally. Whether we like to admit it or not, we have been in those moments. In the most crass way, it's called being delusional if seen in a romantic manner, but we've also accepted in a most platonic way because, hey, the possibility of being friends with them is totally less creepy, right? Right? Right. No, that's not it. In fact, it's actually much worse because these people tend to think that they just know what's best for the celebrity that they stand, despite not really knowing these people.
How do you know what's good for me? That's my opinion!
I think my leftist army BTS abolition memes has said it best. When you thought that you know everything about a person, it just seems like a betrayal when you start finding something such as them dating someone that you wouldn't approve of, shattering the illusion that you have with this person.
I think with BTS, what a lot of people get is the friendship that they never had in real life. And I think that's why, like, the yet to come sentence also, right? Like, you're my best friend for the rest of my life really resonates with a lot of people to the extent that they think that BTS is the friend that they never had. And I think friendship is something which I think can translate more to more people than just the idea of romantic and sexual fantasy could be, because even there are queer fans in the fandom who do not really sexually fantasize about these folks, but they might also be feeling a little weird right now. And that's, I feel personally, is because, you know, when you have a friend and you get to know something really deep about them from someone else and you're like, wow, I thought we were close and now I'm realizing we are not, because this third person is telling me that you are in a relationship and I didn't know. But in a real life situation, you can actually reach out to that friend and ask as to like what happened, as to why, you know, that's like a real issue in that friendship, right? But here it's basically this idea of being very close to somebody you've not even met and then feeling entitled to knowing things about their life as a friend, you know, as someone like, hey, they, like, if you were in a relationship, why should have told me first? That kind of entitlement. And the reason why a lot of people are like, I want the label to confirm, I only trust Tae, is because this is the only way they can get access to Tae and ask him as to what the fuck, what is going on. And the key to understand is that they're really not your friends, or a fan, not a friend.
Suddenly you begin to realize that you're not actually buddies with them and rather just a fan of someone who's swept up in their own emotions. It's kind of like as if you're like having a situationship with someone where like you thought this entire time you had to both very much agree that this is just strictly platonic and sexual and nothing else. But then over time you can't help but to start catching feelings for this person because of this really real and emotional attachment that you get when you're having sex with somebody. Like, yeah, some of it might be their fault, but then most of it is really could be potentially your fault, because even though you literally drew that line in the sand by saying, hey, like, this is just sexual and that's it, you cross that boundary by thinking that you even have a chance with them, which I think that Hannah pretty much describes a parasocial relationship as very worse, because yeah, we all agree that like we have this like kind of closer connection with the idol from watching V lives and, you know, following them on social media and stuff, but we still don't know that person. And it is really kind of embarrassing sometimes, or even shameful to really admit that you actually don't have that closest relationship with that person. And like, you're not actually close with them in the very first place. Although, from an outsider's perspective, Taehyung and Jennie didn't really do anything wrong. It's just more the perception that these two are inconsistent with our own versions of them that got us to feel upset and betrayed. And we must ask, why? Why do we feel this way? Rather than forming real relationships with actual people, whether it's people from our own fandoms and beyond, we would rather cultivate an escape in our parasocial relationships. Why is that? Because we know that we have a lot to work on, or have a lot of baggage to where we think we don't deserve to have meaningful, sometimes hard but fruitful relationships with other people. I mean, think about it. When we're in this parasocial relationship, it is very one-sided. It means that what we do or say isn't going to be held into light for judgment. If anything, our celebrity and our fictional character encourage us to continue our behaviors, good or bad. They wouldn't know exactly what we do because they don't know us personally, and making us not being held accountable in, say, a friendship or a relationship. Like, for example, if I'm talking a lot of shit on the internet for a friend or whatever, that friend will probably will see that particular comment and be like, hey, you need to knock it off. That's not what I want you to do for. Whereas with the celebrity, if you're really defending the celebrity, most likely they're not going to see it, but they will say that they really encourage you to be able to do, like, to support them as much as possible, which to your own interpretation can literally mean anything. And I think that could be very much an issue, because at that point you kind of lost the plot of the entire story. It boils down to fear of abandonment, fear of being judged. There are normal things to fear about, as is a part of human life. However, it becomes an escape from dealing with our own struggles when we continue to egg on this parasocial relationship and see these celebrities as not real people, but rather dolls or playthings, or just a placeholder of having real and fruitful relationships with other people, platonic or otherwise. While K-pop idols may not have a lot of autonomy due to their restrictive contracts from the companies, they do wish the very best for their fans in a way that it will not get them to act really weird. Like, in the most extreme of circumstances, the one-sided parasocial relationship could be so strong for someone that they could end up having or participating in stalker adjacent or real stalker behavior, leading to the delusion that they could be together with the idol. And for sometimes, for people who say, oh, like, idols kind of brought this upon themselves, that is not entirely true, because all they do and their job is to be able to entertain us, not to participate and to get people to be so emotionally entrenched in their parasocial relationship that they would go and stalk them. Like, we've seen this multiple times, time and time again, how much these idols feel uncomfortable to the point where they have gone to the police about it, or like filed restraining orders, or even publicly saying it out loud to people on lives or on social media for people to stop following them. Like, we've seen this happen with certain people and certain fandoms like NCT and Twice and many other groups that I can't even begin to explain. Hell, there are even times that used to threaten their supposed favorite members' lives are back again, with someone literally threatening to kill BTS's Jungkook because he refused some stranger's mom's food. Like, not to be that person to try to age myself, but for those who are a fan of second-gen idols, you know who exactly I'm talking about. It's important for us to see our idols as people, flawed or otherwise. I see a lot of fans try to defend their face when they fuck up or show the real gray areas of themselves. This doesn't mean that we should forgive every idol for their mishaps, but more so seeing them as a product of their society, our society even, because their society does not exist in a vacuum. If anything, there's a lot of interconnected things that are at play here that we're not even aware of. And I usually ask myself this: if a person was a regular person at my workplace or school, or maybe a distant family member, would I react the same way if this person fucked up or may have done something wrong? Would I defend them as hard as I do, or be attached to them as I do to defend them in the version that I see them as? The question is no. So why would we continue to fight really hard for someone even though we don't really know that person? Sometimes we don't like facing our demons, and that's okay. Some of us aren't truly ready to tackle all of that because it requires a lot of shadow work. But to escape so deep into celebrities who generally don't know us, let alone care about us outside of us being their fans, that is a choice that we are making. And although it is really hard to be able to admit to ourselves that, hey, like, maybe we need to scale back on our, like, interests in these genres and to really dive deep into ourselves, it doesn't mean that you can start from nothing and from nowhere. There's a lot of us who are, like, going through the same things right now, particularly since the pandemic, because I know a lot of people have been in a really depressive rut since then, and as a result have dived deeper into photo card collecting, which I can't wait to get into, as well as, like, just going to multiple concerts or just chronically being online. Like, we all have ways to be able to escape, and sometimes we have to look at ourselves if whether or not that's worth it for our mental health, as well as our relationships with other people. The question is, do you want to do it now, or do it at a time where you've noticed that you've fallen so far off the beaten path of reality that you don't recognize yourself anymore? This is rather a deep topic that most people don't want to admit online, and that is fine. After all, escapism can be seen as the same thing as addiction, a distraction from harsh realities of life. However, taking the first step in admitting that you have a problem is important, along with taking a detox or social media break. If you're feeling like you're losing yourself in conversations that don't essentially matter, maybe it's time to log off for the night and ask yourself, how did you get here? How can you become a better person from where you are now? I'm not going to be someone's therapist, but seek professional help if your escapism runs deeper than the usual work and life issues. Like, for example, if you're dealing with some really deep traumatic stuff that you probably wouldn't have to address, I highly recommend seeking a therapist, as well as potentially getting into medication if that helps out for you. I know for me personally, I've been going through a lot of stuff myself, and I noticed that I personally have been going through some level of escapism within K-pop as well as other things as well, and that has gotten me to realize I need to scale back on some of the things that I usually do, whether it means that I engage a little bit less on social media, or just pulling myself up and being able to do more things for myself rather than just getting deeper into fandom stuff. So yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask, and it doesn't hurt to seek help even if you feel that you're completely helpless. Let's be kinder to each other. Rather than fighting each other to the death over conspiracy theories, fandom wars, who's the best fan, moral issues and moral police and things like that, let's just dig in within ourselves and ask why we're still doing it. Please let me know in the comments what's been bugging you about K-pop stan culture, and maybe your thoughts will be featured or expanded in a video for the series. Until then, I'll see you next time with an all-new video.